All right, guys. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Grand Prairie PD podcast.
Yes, sir.
I did my absolute best to trick everybody into thinking this was a new day. I put on
Same day.
I put on a jacket. But
Just part two.
It's part two.
Same underwear.
A little bit.
Yes.
Same underwear, new jacket.
Which for you, even a different day, that could still apply.
True.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a little bit long. Gonna get a little bit more involved. So we wanted to split it up just a little bit. So where do we leave off? You're getting ready to go back to work, correct?
Yeah, finally getting ready to go back into the gang unit. So if you
haven't listened to your first episode, you need to go back.
You need to go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
Check the link in the description should be to the OAPD breakdown of your shooting, and then catch back up here.
Yes. So first shooting took place, came back, recovered, got my injuries, back to work, full duty. Was told, hey, you get to go back to the gang unit next month, which would have been June. This is May now of 2020. This is also the same year of COVID, 2020, where everything just sucked.
Especially for y'all.
Yeah, because when I was involved in that first shooting, I was going to go to Police Week in D.C., which most officers, I don't think there's really any officers that don't know. And it's a big event, National Police Week in D.C. Yep. And because I was involved in a shooting for the year prior, I was actually awarded, along with some of my fellow officers, the top cop award in all the nation.
Oh, cool.
So I'm like, hey, you get to come out and everything's paid for, and like it'll just be great. At the time, it was President Trump. He goes, he might even be president. I was like, oh, cool. Like, to meet President Trump. I'm like, this is great. And then COVID. Like, right. Hey, so we're putting everything on hold. We'll try in October. It's like, okay. And then you can't find toilet paper. You can't find water. You can't find anything in the stores during COVID.
Yeah, that's that was another interview.
Yeah, I thought that was like 3 weeks for us, but y'all did that for like 2.5 years. So
it had nothing to do with COVID. Let's buy all the toilet paper.
Yeah. So, we're getting along, moving along the months. Everyone's kind of transitioning. There's a few, weeks there when everyone's like, "Hey, you're not an essential worker. Stay home." Schools were shut down. So I remember just, gas in California actually hit an all-time low. It was like $2.65. For us, it was like, what?
Wow.
We're like, fill up.
That's when you call your buddies. Hey, bro, pull up. I got you. Get on pump 6. I got you.
The only thing that sucked is you couldn't go nowhere. Everything was closed. It was like, all right, cheap gas and nowhere to go.
Right.
So driving to and from work was awesome because it was like,
it was
smooth sailing to and smooth sailing back. I was like, oh, this is great. But then as things start to pick up, we start heading into, the Black Lives Matters, the George Floyd, the LA riots kick off. So I remember it's a Friday. I'm still working alongside detectives. They've already told me next month, June, I get to go back and work with my gang unit. Myself and another officers are upstairs. There's minimal staffing. It's a Friday. You're put on what's called like a virtual mobile field force. So if there's any riots or anything of that sort that kicks off, you get activated, which means, all right, if all three of us are working in the office today, we would be the first three out there, and then eventually start getting other detectives or officers from outside divisions to respond.
Right.
A shooting call takes place. Hey, shooting just happened at this and this. Me and my partner listening to the radio. We're in the office. We're like, oh, well, let's head out to that shooting. We'll go see if there's any video footage that needs to be canvassed already and help out the patrol officers over there if they need any assistance. On our way to the call, we get a call on our cell phone. Hey, where you guys at? Like, we're heading to the shooting call. Nope, go back to station. You guys have just all been activated. I'm like, okay. So we're going back, load up, grab your hats and bats, grab your less lethals, your 40 millimeter launchers, grab your beanbag shotguns.
Hats and bats being another LAPD nickname. You're not actually putting on ball caps and
Yeah. So what I mean by that is grab your batons.
I don't want to misrepresent y'all's riot control approach. Like we just walk outside with baseball bats.
Grab your batons and grab your helmets and your riot shields.
Yeah.
Most officers that work at LA, we tend to take off our riot shield, our clear ones, because you just don't need it all the time, but you use your ballistic helmet more often. So now everyone's like scraping together. So like, hey, you got an extra shield? He was like, is there an extra helmet? You know, we always joked around and said, there's only one thief in the department. Everyone else is just trying to get their back.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So everyone's like, yeah, I don't have a baton. We're like, oh, I need a baton. We like, grab someone's helmet and just grab whatever you can.
Right.
So we head out to the field. I went into work that day at 6 a.m, got up like around maybe 4:35 to head into work. This is now like 4 p.m, and we're like, all right, hey, go to this intersection. There's protesters there. Okay. And it's screaming, getting a little bit
Now,
rowdy.
was this a result of the George Floyd?
This was, I think, a result of everything just starting to accumulate. You know, just the Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd, people being, you know.
This was post the Minneapolis incident, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, you got to remember, no one's working. They ain't got nothing to do.
Right.
They're not working. You know, the federal government sending checks out to everybody. Hey, you want money? You want money? You want money? Here you go. Here's some money. There was random pallets of bricks showing up in like certain places later on during the riots. I was like,
Right.
anyone notice that random pallet of bricks showing up? And like, yeah, those are probably going to get used against us. But that comes later on. So we're getting to the intersections. We're dealing with the crowds. Initially, it's just shouting, you know, F the police, F you, pigs, you know, F12, the whole, everything you can think of. As it starts getting later and darker, you start getting protesters onto the highways. And California Highway Patrols respond to there. Officers are putting out help calls, you know, for being like overran by crowds. You know, they're just getting like, they're getting sucked in. It's not like they wanted to be in that position. The position is just, you start getting approached from the west, you start getting approached from the south and the north. They're like, oh, damn. Okay, we just got surrounded. So you start responding, and then you start getting fireworks, you know, M80s, Roman candles, glass bottles, frozen water bottles, feces, like, everything you can think of is just coming at you. Right. To the point where we're now about 8 hours into the protest. We have not stopped walking. We haven't gotten any water. We weren't able to use any restrooms because you're constantly bounding from one area to another. Like if you're whatever assigned unit you get, you have a sergeant who's with you. He's responsible and he's like, hey, we got to go over here now. Let's go. Hey, they need us over here. Let's go. And you're just bouncing back and forward, bouncing. And you're like, man, we were exhausting our less lethal options. You know, and it wasn't like, oh, just use them. You just use them. No, it's like you're getting M80s and Roman candles thrown at you. You got the protesters with the umbrellas. You got protesters hiding behind other people, and they're launching things at you. It's like, all right, well, per policy, I can't hit you because you're not throwing anything. It's the people behind you. So you're just like, man, what do? You're just waiting for that opportunity to be able to engage the threats because we're just standing there taking everything all night. Okay,
y'all didn't have pepper ball guns?
So there is pepper ball guns, but patrol doesn't have them. Patrol doesn't. We have less lethal 40 millimeter launchers, and we have bean bags. There also are 37 millimeter launchers, which those are fantastic to disperse a crowd. But a lot of those were for Metropolitan. They were the ones Metro had those, and they were using them. When Metro came in, that's another division within LAPD. They Metro has like SWAT, K9, and they do a lot of just crime suppression. So they're the ones that got like the nicer stuff, the good stuff.
The good stuff, as we say.
So once they start deploying, the crowds really start to disperse.
Yeah.
But there are only so many of them per area, and even then they're getting, they're running out of munitions. They're getting fatigued out as well. We come up to one intersection, and just moments before I had, the chief was there, and he was engaging with the crowd and trying to, be a politician and, hey, it's okay, just don't worry about it. He left, and once he left, it was back on. It was just, I remember walking towards 6th and Broadway. I had a less lethal 40mm launcher. I was behind the line because my job should have just been less lethal and engaging threats. Mm-hmm. But because of we didn't have the personnel, I was also kind of guiding the line. I remember several times as the skirmish line's in front of us, I would look over and look at the detective in charge, and he'd go, hold, and we're like, you just shout, because all of our radios are on full volume. We have helicopters like hovering low, giving us directions. It is loud. Like the video that you saw from the first shooting, easily 10 times as louder, because everyone's radio is on full blast. You're trying to hear things. Everyone's shouting. So a lot of it's just nonverbal communication. But you still want to shout it out so that the person directly in front of you can hear it, and then they shout it out, and everyone on the line is like, hold, and you're just looking, waiting for the next cue, and it's like you see them moving, even if you don't kill the cue, like, push forward, move, or,
right.
columns them too.
Because you can't let any part of the line get out ahead of the other.
No.
Because if that happens, obviously you can have a break, or they can get encircled and cut off, and that's the worst
and
case.
So usually what you want in that situation is you want the less lethal components just doing the less lethal.
Right.
You want people who are kind of like your linebackers who are just moving the line. If they have to push someone forward because they're falling behind, they'll push forward. Mm-hmm. If they need to hold someone back, they'll hold them back, and they're doing all the direction. And then you have your sergeant or supervisor who's giving that information to the linebackers, who then passes it on to the line, and your less lethal component just stays there for safety, because guys in the front, all they got is their baton and their face shield.
Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing to protect them from getting hit on the chest, getting hit on the arms, or anything of that sort. So we're moving forward. That firework that I remember just comes like right above my head, like right over our line. I'm like, shit, where's it going to land? It lands behind us. I'm like, all right, well, thank God. I know it's going to go kaboom really loud. Sure enough, it does. I'm like, but as long as it doesn't land in front of us, because then the sparks are all going to come right in our face or in the middle of us. I'm like, okay, it was launching. It was able to get behind us. We clear out this intersection. My line is facing eastbound. We got another line facing westbound. There's officers stationed south and north of us who are just waiting for their next assignments. I mean, we're fatigued. Anyone who was working that first night, because that first night was just hellacious. There was a lack of preparation, because it just happened so quickly and it escalated so fast. So we're getting exhausted. Everyone that needed to use the restroom, if you were a lady, hopefully you found a business that was open that would let you use it. Mm-hmm. That wasn't looted or broken into, because a lot of the businesses were looted and broken into. So you're not going into those. But there was a few businesses that allowed some of the female officers to use the restroom. The rest of us male officers, man, you found a corner, and I mean, what can you do? You're in a situation where you cannot leave. Right. I remember getting a water bottle like this around midnight, and none of us had drank water like in 8+ hours, because it just wasn't available. Like, we would see the truck that was handing out munitions and water, and because most of the time our team was on the line, they would get everyone behind us, right? And then they drive off. We're like, well, that sucks. Can we get? Nope. They drove off. We're like, okay. I was like, all right. So when I finally got the water, I was just like, first one I just crushed it. Yeah. It's like, and I kept the second one, took a sip. I'm like, all right, keeping this one in the pocket, because I don't know how long this is gonna last. So we're at 6th and Broadway. We got this crowd dispersed. We're facing east, like I said. The other crowd's facing west. We get a vehicle that drives up to our west line, but they're dealing with it. My job is, and my responsibility is with our team, is we face east. We take care of the problems that are east. Mm-hmm. That's you're dividing your responsibilities. That's what you do. Well, I hear the car and I hear shouting. I'm like, all right, cool, they got it. And then I hear, watch out. I'm like, what? I look back, car's driving through. I'm like, I know our policy is, don't shoot at moving vehicles and everything like that. Move out of the way when possible, and unless it's like exigent circumstances where you cannot move, or if you move, you put others in imperative danger. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so all this is happening like in my head, like Okay, I can move and I'll be good.
Right.
Because I can see it. My job is as security with the less lethal component is I'm
checking the back, rear
looking around,
Right.
scanning. Yeah. Guys in line, their focus is straight ahead. 100%. So if I move, someone in the front of me is going to get taken out. So I made the choice, and I said, you know what? I need to engage the threat, and it's not going to be with less lethal. This is one of those lethal moments. I engage the threat. Vehicle slows down. Our line disperses. Because everyone, at that point, gunshots are pretty loud. They hear the gunshots. Right. And we clear out. Vehicle slows down. I'm like, cool, threat stopped. Nope. Punches it. Continues going east. Luckily, he's taken into custody at the next intersection.
Luckily, everybody got out of his way between there and the next intersection.
Yeah.
And the detective who was in charge, I won't mention his name because he'll probably be like, why'd you mention my name, bro? He knew, like, I had gotten into the first shooting, obviously. And he was one of those, real, like, older veteran officers in the sense of, like, the way of the culture and everything. And I remember after the shooting, because everyone had told me, hey, once you get in the first shooting, it's likely that you're getting a second one. I was like, I don't believe that. He goes, no, really, it's just, you just have a heightened sense. You pick up on things quicker than other officers. You're going to pick up on the threats that are there. Not that other officers can't, but you're just going to pick up a lot quicker on the threat. So I remember getting into the second shooting. I'm like, I just really got into a second shooting. And I look over at him, and he's looking at me. And he's like, and I just start like, oh.
Here we go again.
Yeah, I was like, and someone comes up, like, anyone shoot? Who shot? Who shot? I'm just like, like.
It was I.
Yeah, I shot. He goes, okay. Separate.
Yeah.
Right. Someone isolated. Who else saw the shooting or heard it? And everyone on my line was like, well.
We all heard it, right?
All of us had been issued, for the most part. I didn't have one at the time, but a lot of officers had been issued body-worn cameras. Mm-hmm. The detectives and the officers that are in the detective capacity were not, because they don't get one. But almost no one had video footage of the incident because you're facing east, you're facing west.
Right.
You had those cameras rolling for hours. A lot of them died, or some of them were just like, other people were directed, hey, just secure the body cameras because they're going to come off during the riots. Mm-hmm. So they secured them. So there was no video footage from actual body-worn officers for that. But the suspect gets taken into custody, and I didn't mention what happened with the first suspect, so I'll go back and address that too, as far as, like, the time that he got for everything. But the second suspect, really quick, he gets taken into custody. Mm-hmm. He recorded himself looting and breaking into stores and basically doing the same thing everyone was saying, F12, F-police,
That's so convenient.
Yeah, like, kill the cops need to die, that whole thing, Yeah. He pretty much got unsupervised probation in housing for his crime.
Nice.
A lot of this has to do with the current, at the time of this, he's still the current DA, George Gascon, and the way he directed things. Mm-hmm. Because with the first suspect, we're going to piggyback real quick. Mm-hmm. With the first suspect in the shooting, I was informed by the deputy DA is that I need you to present yourself in court because part of these policies and things that George Gascon is directing is he only gets 4 to 8 years for attempted murder on a police officer with the possibility of parole. Keep this in mind. He had already been serving by the time he's giving me this information, because it wasn't until last year that this first shooting finally got closed. Right. He had been serving close to 3 years. So let's say he got convicted and got 4 years for attempted murder with parole. That means they owe him time because, time served, they times it times 2. Mm-hmm. If they went with 8 years, he'd have a year left because they would have given him credit for 6.
Golly.
Luckily,
it's seeing that video. Like, again,
yes.
Watch the video. Yeah. We're not talking about he took a plea deal because it was a legal gray area if he was guilty. I mean, this is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
So we finally got it, and he's doing 34. First suspect.
Good.
Okay. Second suspect, like I said, he pretty much got unsupervised probation in housing. And I remember asking about that. I was like, how does he get unsupervised probation in housing? He's like, well, it's a program because his record and everything. I'm like, makes no sense.
Right.
So now I've been involved in the second shooting. I get separated. They separate me. They interview me, or they attempt to interview me. But I'm like passed out in the supervisor's office.
Right.
They take me to the station, and I'm just out, like cold. I remember I was like, man, I'm so tired. I took off my Sam Brown belt. I, buttoned my shirt, took off my vest. I hung it in the back, and I just racked out. Until I see someone like stand in the room, like, "Are you Enrique?" I'm like, "Huh? Who are you?" He's like, and it was the person who was representing me for the shooting. I was like, "Yes." He goes, "How long have you been at work for?" I'm like, since 6 a.m. yesterday, and it was like 8 a.m. the next day. He's like, okay, you can't get interviewed. You've been awake you've been awake and at work for more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's like, okay. So they kind of do a really quick walkthrough of it. Then, of course, I get told, hey, not sure if they told you, but you're assigned home until further notice because of your shooting. And you're not going back to the gang unit anytime soon. No, why? Really want to go back to the gang unit, but it's part of the process. You get assigned home. Then I wake up. This happened on a Friday. I remember on May 30th, and woke up Saturday morning to a bunch of missed calls. I'm like, what the hell? I call them like, hey, what's going on? I was like, hey, so the department has activated everyone, which means like, days off canceled. Vacation,
Right, yeah.
if you're not already like out, canceled. Everything's canceled, and all of LAPD went to 12 hours. So 12 hours, like 12 hours from 6 to 6, whether it's AM to PM or PM to AM, just back to back, no days off. It's like, me too? It's like, yeah. I was like, I just got told I'm gonna sign home. It's like, well, they just said everyone's been activated. I was like, all right, I'll call my lieutenant just to make sure. I'm like, I don't want to go into work.
Assigned, what we consider admin time for shooting is significant. That's not something you just accidentally go back to work. You want to make sure you get it right.
So I called the lieutenant, and he's like, no, yeah, you're coming back into work. So I'm like, okay. So I show up to work, and everyone's loading up, but I'm not allowed public contact, so I can't be out there in the riots no more. So I'm assigned to the station security. And I remember they told me, hey, or Enrique, do you have a rifle? I was like, no. I said, all right, well, you got station security. You can just be on the roof. He goes, I trust you, of all people, that if the station's getting, overran, you're going to take care of business. I was like, I appreciate the confidence, sir.
I'm like, man, that's wrong.
I was like, but I guess I'll be up on the roof, man. I remember taking a canopy up to the roof and a folding chair. I was like, I am not going to be out here with the sun just beating on the top of my head in this heat. So I think the canopy flew away, by the way. I just never said anything till today because I don't remember seeing it up there no more. So they do station security, and they tell me once it's kind of the riots start to die down a bit, like, hey, now you got to go see BSS again, the behavioral science unit, for being involved in a shooting. Well, from the time that I had done it first, because it was right during like COVID when I had returned to work, I started off with one of the female there, and then I transitioned to one of the males because I didn't want to do like Zoom. I said, nah, I'd rather just do it in person. Yeah. So now I'm back to talking to him, and he's like, got that look like, is this for a second one? I'm like, yes, sir. He goes, okay. Well, tell me about it. I'm like, this happened. I did what needed to be done. I'm confident in what I did. I don't have any regrets. I'm like, luckily, because of what I did, none of the officers got hurt. Yeah, I mean, you're cleared for duty again. He's like, you still got to come back for a mandatory 2 to complete the mandatory 3, but
sure,
you got no restrictions. You understand what you did. You understand why you had to do it. It's like, but he was just more shocked. He goes, wait, did we schedule another one for the first one? I'm like, no, this is.
Is this a follow-up? No, sir.
This is a new case.
Second offense.
Yeah. So that's all done and taken care of finally. And I start talking to my wife because things are changing within California, within the city and the department. And because of COVID, we're being mandated to, test and everything. And a lot of this testing, if refused to at the time to get vaccinated, was okay. You gotta get tested twice a week, and it's out of your own cost. We'll supply you the test, but it's out of your own cost. I'm like, wait, what?
I'm about to ask. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. So I was like,
explain it.
So what was happening is we worked 12-hour schedules similar to here.
Mm-hmm.
On your first day back to work, you had to take a test.
Okay.
That test was you had to spit in the tube, seal it, and send it off, and then eventually you get the results back saying that you're clear to work. Well, that was the first issue because it's not an immediate test. It gets sent out, and eventually you get the results. So if you came back,
week is over.
Yeah, if like you came back with COVID positive, like, oh yeah, you were COVID positive. So everyone who was around you that work week needs to be isolated now.
Who come up with that, man?
And if I remember, every test you need to test twice weekly was like, it never got to where they charged us, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
But that was what was instructed, and that was the information that was given to us was I think $60 a test. So you're looking at $120 a work week.
Right.
It's what, $480 a month. I was like, for me to come to work, I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Eventually, I think just to this date, they finally kind of got rid of it. But part of that other spit test was you couldn't eat or consume any drinks or food for like 30 minutes or anything prior to. So a lot of times you get to work, and when you're morning, like first thing we have is either coffee or an energy drink. I'm like, damn. I was like, well, I guess I'll come back later and I'll do it because I forgot. And so you have like a few of us outside, that weren't vaccinated, and just like,
right.
oh man, I forgot to do the other thing, which is like seal it or something. Like, all right, give me another one. Be like, hold on, man, I need some spit. I don't.
Oh no.
There you are. Everyone's outside. Like they had to tell us do it outside because a lot of us were just like, all right, and briefing like,
yeah.
What's my assignment? Okay.
Which is the fact that you're attending briefing as a person that you don't know, you're taking a test to find out if you're
yes.
Yeah. That's why I wrote down spit. No, I'm negative.
Yeah.
Here's $60. Yeah. Bye. Get out of my face.
So what was your wife's kind of stance on some of this?
So
obviously you're frustrated.
Yeah, I'm frustrated. She's starting to see the frustration in me daily, of me just I don't want to continue doing this. This is our hands are tied. The policies that are being implemented, the DA that was in charge is he's really not police friendly, even though he was a former LA cop. But if you want to see of what he did, just look at San Francisco. And now he's back in LA. I'm like, we're having transients or homeless people all over the streets who have equal, if not more, rights to the residents who are there paying for rent, going to and from work. They can set up their tents. They can stay in their tents. During COVID, I believe they even bought mobile homes. Some apartments were, or not apartments, hotels were rented out for them. And it was just this is not making sense. And then officers are getting their hands tied. I mean, officers were going months without making proactive police stops.
Right.
Because it was just so bad. You did something and someone would audit your body-worn video. Hey, before you jumped out of the car, your seatbelt was unbuckled. Or you use offensive language. I think most recently I saw someone even might have taken a suspension day because they failed to address someone, which is a whole other topic, but they called someone by their name, which is, I believe, their legal name, and they took a suspension day because that person did not want to be addressed by their legal name. They want to be addressed elsewhere.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So it was getting to that point where officers and myself are feeling like, how do you want me to do police work when I'm constantly have to be in fear of getting audited
Right.
and being placed on suspension days for doing the work? Like, I'm trying to do good work. I'm trying to help out the community that I'm in. And you're going to put my hand, like handcuff me behind my back and expect me to go out and do and produce good work. I can't do the work if you're taking away my ability to do traffic stops. You know, the traffic stops that I do help me identify suspects or just help me show high visibility in the area when, you know, if the community sees that police officers are driving around the area and they're you know, doing traffic stops, like, oh, okay, the police are always out here. They're always taking care of business. You know, like, I feel safer. But if you take that away from officers, that's not good. So now you got that.
Well, and you have younger guys too, or say younger guys, really anybody who realizes, oh, hey, I'm going to get the same amount of money whether I do
Whether I do
or not. And so you make that officer feel jaded. Like, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm. I'll sit back, collect
I'll just wait, let direct deposit hit.
Okay, so for my fellow officers, West Coast, it is grandprairiepolice.org. Please get your butt online, look at the stuff, come do a ride along. Holy crap. I'm appalled. I can't believe that.
Yeah. And if you don't think it's a good place, I can tell you it is. We already have a few officers from LA, San Francisco, different states. So even from with the DFW area, leaving other agencies to come here. So it's a good place to work. Honestly, it is. Look into the application process once it opens. Again, if I can give you a tip, it would be if that PDF packet, the background packet is available, start working that already. So when that openings come up, all you got to do is submit your application. You already got your background packet ready to go.
Yeah.
And
you're talking to two laterals. You know, we've been there, done that, so to speak. But, you know, the previous agency, it's just a big difference, bro, when you don't have the back end of the upper echelon. I'll put it to you like that. So here, you better get your butt up and do some traffic stops. You better get out there and be proactive. I'm sad to hear that.
Yeah. And I will say this, you know, not everything that happened in LA was negative. I had some of the best, and I'm sure you too, where you came from.
Yeah.
I had some of the best experiences, the most fun ever working in LA. And there's a lot of good people. Mm-hmm. There honestly is, not only as officers, but within the community. There's a lot of good people.
Yep.
But it's the few individuals that prevent you from doing that that make it difficult to do the job.
Yeah.
And there's only so many good people that back you in positions that can help you. But those people or officers, lieutenants, whoever they may be, they eventually retire.
Yep.
And you're left with whomever comes next, and hopefully he's as good, if not better, than the person who just left. So given all this, after talking to my wife, and I told her, hey, I don't think I can do this much longer here. Mm-hmm. Grand Prairie at the time had opened up an application, and they went out to California. So I applied.
Yep.
I also had applied for a promotion within the department to work in our community service bureau, which was no longer like the patrol side of things. Now it's more community based. Mm-hmm. And I ended up getting that position. So
what was your thought process there?
So I wanted to do something different. Mm-hmm. You know, if I can't do the proactive policing side, how else can I bridge that gap and still help out the community? And that was working alongside the community directly.
Can't do it in the sense of like the policy is not letting you, or the department actually saying, hey, we're not putting you back in your unit.
So no one ever directly is going to tell you can't do traffic stops. You can't arrest people. Problem is the policies, and because of the audits, the more proactive policing you do, the more you activate your body-worn video, the more chances there is your video gets audited. You're not doing anything wrong by getting that video audited. However, there are certain people, like in any place, that are just, you know, as you call them, the bean counters, that are just like, oh, took off the seatbelt too early. Oh, got back in the car, didn't put your seatbelt back on in time. Right. Oh, you had a late body-worn activation, or you terminated your body-worn video too early, and this is the third time this has happened. You've already been documented before. Now it's going to be written final. The next one could be a suspension day. Like, those are the things that it's like, no, don't do that to officers. You know, we are officers. We're people. We make mistakes.
We used to have one where we had a microphone. and if you didn't do if you actually read the policy, you had to stand in front of the camera and talk in the microphone or something.
Yeah.
And I never obviously did it, but it was if you didn't do this, and same thing, you get in trouble. It's just disciplining for the sake of discipline.
Yeah, so I ended up putting in for that position. I got it, and I was promoted to what was kind of the equivalent of a corporal or a field training officer, but we used to call them soft stripes or Velcro stripes. The reason being, if you ever left that unit, you would revert back to your previous position because it wasn't a permanent promotion. It was while you were there. And so I worked with some really good officers there. I worked with a really good sergeant who's still on the job now. And I was able to now do a different side of police work where all we did is we worked at South Park off 51st and Avalon, which I mentioned in the previous video. And we would hold events for the community, whether if it is for Juneteenth, for Cinco de Mayo, or for the grand opening. And you have, we had for the grand opening players from the Chargers NFL team show up there.
Very cool.
We would also do other things that maybe you never would get to see aside. Unfortunately, when we had a child who passed away for the family, we went ahead and planted a tree so that they could always go to that park, and that tree was there as a
That's very cool.
representation of their child that they lost. And the family was given an overwhelming amount of support. The family was treated to some events as well. So this was another side of things that I hadn't done before, which was nice to take a break from because as a police officer, if you're always going 100 miles an hour, you're going to burn yourself out. You got to eventually just stop, take a breather. That's why it's good to work different assignments, whether you're going to patrol to detective, work another assignment, and then you want to go back to patrol, great, because it gives you a different view of things. And it gives you a different understanding. It makes you honestly a well-rounded officer overall.
Right.
So I'm working this unit now. And I remember I told my sergeant, I was like, hey, sir, thank you for the promotion, but I do want to let you know I applied outside. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know if I'll make the decision to leave.
As far as Grand Prairie is concerned?
Yes, this was for Grand Prairie. And he was very understanding. He was like, nope. He goes, I've told you before, you do what you think is best for your family. I know God does things that he thinks are best for us, or he knows is best for us. So whatever happens, I have full faith in you, and you have my support, which was awesome to hear from a sergeant, your supervisor, who you just joined the unit, and you're just telling him, hey, I also applied, not for another unit, a whole different state in Grand Prairie. It's like, I support you. That's great support. That's a good supervisor there. Time came for me to do the background and the polygraph and the psych here. So I drove out with my wife. We checked out the area. And
So you drove out?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. You drove from California?
Oh, yeah. I drove here.
You don't get your ass on a plane?
So I drove out here to do all that. And the intention was, hey, we're going to drive out here. I think we're fully committed to this. We had already talked about it. And so I was 100%. She was like, I'm 100%, but not really yet.
Yeah.
Right.
We drove out here. We did everything. We liked some of the areas. We went to go check some of the new housing. And we're like, oh, man, this is really nice. We left the car here. We flew back. I left the car here with a buddy of mine.
Oh, okay.
So that way I was like, okay, one less car to drive back when we move.
Sure.
As the date started to get closer, my wife started to have second thoughts. And that's when I was like, hey, I need to know now.
Yeah.
Right.
Are we doing this or not? I'm like, it's not too late. I know they gave me a tentative start date, but I haven't resigned yet.
Yeah.
We need, this is what I think is best for our family, but we're a marriage, husband and wife. We need to both agree on if this is what we want to do, we need to move forward. And it's like, yes, that's okay. Let's do it. I know it's going to be difficult. So we sold the house, moved out here. Best decision we ever had. Took a little bit of adjusting on my wife's side because when she moved out here, she was like, I hate it. I can't eat. I'm sick. I'm homesick. I just don't want to be here.
She couldn't eat because she couldn't handle real Mexican food, or?
Yeah. I don't know about the real Mexican food.
I didn't want to hear you talk about Mexican food.
Yeah, Tex-Mex. So I'm like, It's like, I need to go back, she tells me. I'm like, okay. I was like, I can't leave the academy because I'll lose the income.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, let me finish the academy, and I need to at least finish probation. I'm like, because it's not like I can just, now that I was here in Grand Prairie and in the academy, I can't just pick up and leave and go back.
Yeah.
We already sold the house. I don't have an income. Can't buy another house if you don't have an income, even if we got money.
Yeah.
I'm like, and we need money coming in to support us.
Sure.
So she was going to leave to go back and spend some time over there. My son was on vacation anyway, so I was like, it's fine, go. Like, you guys can be over there. I'm like, and if it gives me time to focus while I'm in the academy.
Right.
But take a pregnancy test. Because I was like, something seems off. I'm not going to say you're emotional,
But you emotional.
but you're a little bit emotional. So she takes a pregnancy test. Sure enough, we're having another baby. I'm like, that explains a lot.
Right.
I'm like, okay. So she still left, but it was now like, it was a whole different thing. Because now we understood why she was feeling the way she was. She didn't want to eat. Smells were grossing her out.
Yeah.
It was due to the pregnancy. So we had our first, Texan-born daughter, made in Cali, born in Texas.
Right.
That's funny.
She's been a blessing. I'm so happy to be here now. We live on a nice, plot of land, which I would never be able to get in California.
Yeah.
Right.
To those people who are thinking about moving, it's like law enforcement. You're either going to go and commit yourself 100%, including that mindset portion, understanding that you can get shot, understanding that you will get shot and what you're going to do to recover for that. Moving to Texas to become an officer is a commitment. Understand that you're going to have some adjustments.
Oh, yeah.
Understand that when summer comes, it is hot. And I don't mean hot. I mean like it's blazing hot. When you step out of that black and white and you're like, my God, I'm like burning.
You think
Well,
Satan
yeah.
is standing on the
Yeah.
side over there.
If you come, change your license plate.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you drive your car down here and I see you pulling into a nice house that I know you bought with your inflated ass salary, you're pricing us out of the market, I'm not going to do anything to your car because I have to keep my job, but I'm going to really hope somebody else does.
Enrique, let me tell you, bro. We
Yeah.
talk about y'all, okay?
Hey.
I'm like, man,
Oh,
this housing-
everything
this
that's wrong
housing-
in Texas is y'all's fault.
Yeah, it's all-
everything.
yeah,
it
I
doesn't
blame
have to
y'all.
make sense.
Yeah, I
The
got
weather's bad.
my Texas flag and my U.S. flag flying high outside my home.
Okay, I'll give you
All
that.
right?
I'll give you that.
And all my vehicles have Texas plates.
All right. That's,
Shoot, when I came to do that polygraph in that site the first time, before I left, it had Texas plates.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Now, I talked to him a little bit this past weekend because they had me doing a booth for the podcast, and you were doing a Unidos booth.
Yeah, I was working for Unidos, which is another thing here in Grand Prairie. If you're listening, you live in the Grand Prairie, and it's a nice program we have where we try and bridge that gap between the Hispanic community and officers. So look for that information on the website too.
I was gonna say, you and I had never met.
No.
But pretty quickly we went up talking, and I realized that he was a defector from the world of the LA Dodgers. He's no longer a Dodgers fan. He's a Rangers fan.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, if I go back home and someone gives me free tickets, I'm gonna take them up for the tickets, and hopefully it comes with some free drinks too.
You
However,
said you take them and sell them.
Right.
no, because the tickets I'm thinking of is from my buddy who said he'll get me back behind home plate. I'm like, you can't.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
That's on a once in a lifetime
Not turning that
opportunity.
down. True,
yeah,
true.
yeah.
As a Rangers fan, the only team I'm turning down tickets like that for is going to be the Blue Jays.
The who?
The Blue Jays, Toronto.
What do they play?
Yeah.
See?
Well, tell your wife, bro. Glad she's here in Texas,
Yeah.
but we got to get her a Kool-Aid pickle.
Good.
Yeah. Just trust
I don't
me.
think that's a Texas thing. That's a KD thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a Dallas thing. We got to get her a Kool-Aid pickle.
I'm a Fort Worth type of guy.
That's okay. You can find them over there too.
Carlos is over here
Hello, Stop
nodding.
6.
Ugh.
I know somebody listening over there. We're gonna bring me a Kool-Aid pickle.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, normally around now I kind of ask people what their general advice is for new guys getting in, but I think you've done a really good job of covering that.
Yeah, I mean, I try and put out as much information as I can. Like I said, I'm happy to be doing this podcast because usually I go and I talk to recruits in academy classes or in-service officers. I did for LA. I did for Rio Hondo. And I'm still open for that. So if anyone, listening to this thinks that their department may benefit from me going to talk to them, reach out to Grand Prairie, and they'll get you in contact with the right people so I can help out. But it's an important thing to talk about. We talk, everything else gets talked about in the academies and in service training. Tactics. Checking your weapons for malfunctions, clearing malfunctions. But we don't ever talk about the mindset of police work. Not, like I said, not just, oh, well, I got into a shooting, I know what I'll do. Okay, but how is it affecting your family? How is it affecting your son? Like, that's another thing, too, that is I had to have that conversation with my 3-year-old son, who's now 7,
right,
about that. And believe it or not, children will pick up on things because I never really directly talked to him about it until I heard him say something. I would talk to it with my buddies and my friends while I was assigned home, recovering. And one day I remember him saying, yeah, because the bad guy shot daddy, that's why. And he wasn't talking to me, he was just talking to another one. I think it was his cousin or something. I was like,
yeah.
I'm like, what did my son just say?
They smart, bro.
Yep.
He understood and he picked up from overhearing conversations. And I talked to him and I told him, I'm like, yes, dad was involved in a shooting. They're like, dad was shot and dad had to shoot someone to protect himself. Be like, but dad's here now and the other person's in jail because they did a bad thing. So now they have their consequences.
Yep.
Right.
And he understands that. And it showed a level of maturity for a child of his age to be able to understand, even at that young age, like, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong.
Yep.
Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
These are conversations that all of you officers in service, recruits, or those thinking about joining the department, is you have to have a full understanding of what you're signing up for.
Yep.
Keep your mindset sharp, stay up on your tactics, your training, and have the right equipment for the job.
Yeah.
So, sometimes we may not get provided with the best equipment, and if your department allows you or approves you to have other equipment that you think is better or you've done your homework on and you can use it, then use it.
Yeah.
That's how I justify buying guns and staccatos, okay? Because I use them, okay? If you're listening, wife, yeah. That's how I buy them.
Yeah. She's like, no.
Yeah. She says, you bought another one? Be like, no, I didn't buy another one. I've been having this one. I just don't use it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here again.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a bummer talking to a dude about getting shot. I knew it was going to be a little bit of a, not quite as many laughs, but definitely a conversation that's very necessary.
I was going to say it's
Definitely,
necessary. We need to have it.
But
Yeah.
well, like we've mentioned a few times so far, make sure and go to the description in the podcast and check out the video of the shooting. Kind of make the whole story make a little bit more sense.
Yes, definitely.
All right, buddy. Well, we really appreciate it again.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate you
And
too.
Till next time.
Yep.
Hopefully not for me.